Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy bloody Sunday. Let me just see if I can add Arian. Where are we? Perfect. She is there, so I'm going to add her in. I have not done a live for such a long time. Invite. This light is really pants.
Hello, my love.
Hello, my darling. Oh, yes. Now I've got to go. I'm just going to move my chair down.
Oh, yeah, and I go move. Yeah.
I was like, right. And thank you, because I was a minute or so late because I was having a tripod malfunction. You know, the trials and tribulations.
You can't say that in the real world.
I was having a tripod yeah. This is what it means to have an online business, right?
Right. You're so cute.
How are you?
I have to start by saying we're on a 3-day juice cleanse. We're doing like a full liver detox. So I seem pretty chilled, and it's not because I'm not excited. I'm just super calm and super chilled. It's amazing what happens on the evening of your second day of just drinking liquids. Andre and I were just watching TV now, and he just looked at me. He's like, is it just me, or is everyone on every show just eating food? I was like, yeah, I think we're hungry. Anyway.
I thought you were going to say that you're like really like fierce and angry.
Oh no, I'm just so super chilled. I got my peppermint tea. I'm ready for jam. Yeah.
Love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for making the time, because I know it's, you know, you like I am are an early bird to bedder. And
Absolutely.
I'm like, oh, it's 8 o'clock and it's on a Sunday. So thank you.
I know. I had also thought today was Saturday all day until I realized I had a call tonight. I was like, dang.
We'll go with it.
Yes.
We'll go with it. It's a day. It's a day. So thank you. So I know you had some questions come through and I had some questions come through, but just to kind of give everybody some context, because I know we're going to have people from your audience and my audience, and I thought it'd be good just to kind of give a bit of a backstory as to, like, we're going to talk about energy medicine and all the magic and what the hell it is and more. But I've worked with Ari. We worked together. I was part of the OG group,
The original.
the OGs of Lessons in Truth, and that ran from September 2020, right? Yeah, through to August last year. So we were together for a beautiful long time. And I wanted to share kind of like my intention going into it. I've talked about this before, but my intention going into it was, and we've talked about this, Ari, so many times, I was like, right, I've done other things. Like, you know, what is this going to be for me? And my intention was, from a work perspective, like I wanted to incorporate deeper understanding of energy medicine. And I remember us talking about the theory, and I was like, yes, I want to know the information and the theory and understand that at a deeper level, as well as all the practices and stuff. And it was very much like I kind of came at it from a point of view that it was going to be for others, but it was very much like, it's like, disclaimer, it's not just for others, it's always for you too. And also my experience, like I have talked with you about my experience with lit whilst we were in the container in the program, right? And we haven't talked about it kind of publicly 6 months on. So me coming out the other side and utilizing it in my own life and in my work with clients and all of that jazz. So I thought it would be good to share that perspective too, because, you know, like anything you're learning, when you are learning, it's like this, right? There is a real journey and experience that happens for you on a personal level. And coming out, I like say like out the other side, like it's not like I was like, "Rah!" But when you're
In
in
jail.
in jail, but when you're in the container, right, it's very,
Yeah. You're
yeah,
taken care of.
yeah, you're held, and we are still held, like our beautiful lit fam of still very much like connected, and we have this we meet monthly, you know, and we keep connected with each other, and it's great. But I wanted to talk about it from a point of view of how it becomes very integrated. So for me, during the time, there was, you know, the learning and the whole experience in the container, but also understanding at a probably more of an intellectual level how the energy systems worked and all of that jazz. And you know, I was going through a lot of personal stuff. Like in that time, we decided to move to buy a house. We moved house, we renovated it. I was going through like so much in my own business. Like it was like this kind of like deconstructing that I was doing in my life and my business and my work, and I was kind of questioning pretty much a lot, right? And I think the depth of the mentorship piece there was so huge for me. But it wasn't like, oh, I wanted this and this happened. It was just like this beautiful flow that happened throughout. And then,
And I
sorry,
want to write.
go on,
No,
you go.
I'll write it down because you're in a flow. So I'll write it down and I'll remember. Continue, Dylan.
Beautiful. So yeah, and then, you know, like I think at the end of the container, we had our Reiki 1 and 2, right? So we had those beautiful immersive weekends together, and my my person who I practiced on was my partner, who is now who I practice on the most. He's literally like a Reiki. He's like, I don't know what you do, and I can feel this. I can feel these feelings, like when I'm doing a healing on him. He's like, I can't. His like very scientific male Dutch economic studied supply chain brain cannot like get it, but he just loves it. And he's like my biggest, he's not a very good paying customer, I tell you. but but you know, doing like wrapping up with Reiki and becoming like a you know, Reiki practitioner. I remember talking to you, and I didn't actually realize that that's what we would become as well. And I was like, oh, amazing, this is going to be great. But having that as a tool on a personal level, but also in my work, like it was 100% like a real missing piece. And just to give it context, like I work with the physical side of our bodies and female biology, plus energetics, and then plus things come up, right, and we need to heal and we need to work on those on emotional and energetic level. And that like the whole of what we do and did in lit has been useful and incredible for that. And yeah, and I was reflecting before we, you know, coming on this call, I was like reflecting, okay, like what, 6 months down the line now, right? Crazy. And what was kind of like itsy bitsy during the process of being in lit, you know, kind of tapping into the practices and understanding my own energy body, has become habitual and second nature. Like to the point where I'm like, if I am in a bit of an erratic state, like my energy is high, like I'm a manifesting generating human design, like I kind of flit around and I'm really embrace that. But if I'm like, oh my God, I'm up here, for example, the last 2 weeks, I've got a lot of work on, which I love. Like it's given me so much life and energy, but I was like, I'm vibrating up here. So I can see that, and I can bring myself back down so quickly and easily.
Yeah.
And I see that in my clients as well. So when I'm jumping on and I'm connecting with my one-on-one clients, even as well with my marketing clients, I'm like, oh, you know, like it's, you have this, it's beautiful. It's like this kind of like sixth sense superpower, right? And the awareness is obviously really key, but I love it because I can see what I need and I can take myself away and support myself. And it's not like I need to go off for like 5 hours and sit deep in meditation. It's just like, oh, you know, it could be as simple as I'm just going to grab that Bach flower remedy and pop it in my water and sit for 1 minute in stillness, connect to myself, you know, wrap myself in a bubble of light and then go forward.
Right.
And I wouldn't have had that, like I have awareness, but I wouldn't have had that. Like, I mean, I don't know any different now, right? But I'm like, I wouldn't have done that before.
Right.
Because I didn't have the tools.
Yeah. And I think that that's a really important part to recognize with energy medicine, is that we think that energy medicine is this like nebulous topic. It's just what are we actually talking about? How do you use energy as medicine? But what we must remember is that we're always using energy as medicine anyway, whether we're conscious of it or not. The thing is that if you start to learn how to use it in a way that's beneficial for you and whatever you're going through in your life, you're going to then reach for the tools when needed and lean into the things that need to be done when you can feel it in your body before it becomes a problem. Because I can almost guarantee you what would have happened in the past, and I'll speak for myself here, is like sometimes you've got a lot of work on and you're all up here, as you were saying, but you know that you need to come down, you know that you need to ground yourself, but you just don't really know how to do it efficiently and quickly. What happens is you actually land up burning out or getting a headache or some sort of body illness or ailment that happens that puts a stop to the frazzle and actually slows you.
Yeah, and you end up shoulding on yourself. Like I talk about this in my work, right? Like it's like stop shoulding on yourself. So it's like I should have got up early this morning, sat in meditation, journaled, done all of this thing, and the to-do list, tick list of shoulds grows, and then maybe all you actually needed was a moment, a breath.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and so
breath, like what do you do in that moment? That's also really important, because you know, there's a lot of literature out there that says, you know, take a step away from your computer and go for a walk in nature. And all of those things are relevant and beautiful and necessary. But what if you had compounding tools that you could add to that walk that would bring you back to center much quicker?
Yeah.
You know? What if there was an acupoint? Wow. That's what I'm saying, right? What if there's an acupoint or a flower remedy or an essential oil on an acupoint that you could place that will really help you ground your energies in a way that would have taken 10 or 15 minutes of meditation or 10 or 15 minutes of breath work, which I'm not saying 1 second that that all of the tools replace one another, because they don't. We can add them, you know, into one beautiful practice and compound them. But in time of stress or need, this is a really good thing to know.
And it's also worth noting and saying that even for myself, I speak for myself, like even though I have there are lots of different ways to support ourselves. Like I am still learning. Like it's like you've got I've got this we've got this kind of like folder, this smorgasbord, as you always say, this kind of treasure trove. I always call it like a treasure trove of tools and ways. And sometimes we forget like what we've got, or you know, we have spent more time with one practice than the other, and maybe we resonate with one, like a couple of things more than others. And you can, and I did this actually on Friday, like I'm doing this because I've I love trees, but I printed out everything so I could, because I like the physical and to go and sit down away from the screen with it and what have you. And so I get my folder and I'm like, oh yeah, that. And so I'm still learning. And so what we forget when we're thinking about doing something whereby we are learning for self or for work, what have you, we kind of look at it in terms of, oh, I'm doing this for a year, it costs X amount, and that's the time I'm going to get it. My point being that it's so much, it's beyond that. So when you look at an offering or something that tickles your fancy and that calls you in, it's like, it's not just that time, it's beyond. And so, you know, it's like, you know, I remember years ago from a work perspective, like being in a job and going for a role. And I was like, no one's going to take, it's that kind of like, no one's going to take away that experience. That's going to stay with me and that's just going to keep growing.
Right. That's such a good point. Yeah. The content in its nature is expansive, and that expands across containers, across time, across experiences, years. And you just mentioned something earlier that I just wanted to clarify when you said that you grab your folder with all of the things, just to clarify that that is like PDF booklets.
Oh yeah.
Cheat sheets, a whole bunch of stuff that comes with each module that helps all the students reach for something physically, so that when they need to either study something a bit more in depth or use something when they need it, they've got them there.
And, you know, when it's also fine tunes your own intuition and awareness to your own energy body. So it's like, oh, I'm feeling like my base chakra is, and my root is really needing something. Like, is that so? And you can confirm, if you will, and then look at how to support. But can we take a step back as well, because like I'm sure there's going to be people who are like, what the actual is, like, what is energy medicine? So to really
so the way that I approach energy medicine is very much the 4 parts of a whole. I look at the physical body, I look at the emotional body, the mental body, and then the spiritual body. And so we have 4 quadrants of a whole. Now, physically, we have a physical body, and we have organs, and we have the casing, which all of those organs sit in. And then we've got nerve plexuses and systems of the body. And each one of those things that I've just mentioned relates to a particular energy. Within that energy system or energy data bank, energy center, some people call them chakras, there is a set of emotions that lives and resides within them, which means that the emotions can be, you know, they can come manifest, they can be expressed in our everyday lives. And if you learn a really good emotional vocabulary, i.e. you learn how to speak your emotions and you know what emotions belong to what words. And I say that specifically because a lot of us aren't brought up thinking and being taught that there aren't only 3 emotions. You know, like you don't only experience happiness, sadness, and like there are a range of emotions that we can experience. And once you develop an emotional vocabulary, you're able to actually pinpoint much easier in which center that belongs, in which organ that's being experienced. And here's the thing is that, you know, science has been catching up over the last couple of decades that what ancients have known since the beginning of time is that when you have an emotion and that isn't expressed in a way that makes you feel like you've released it, maybe you haven't, you felt that it wasn't appropriate, or you didn't know how to manage that emotion or experience it in a way that was accepted maybe from your family or culture, what happens is that emotion then gets stuck in the body. Now, emotion is energy in motion. And so if that emotion becomes stagnant, it just means that it's not spinning, vibrating, flowing, use whatever term you want, but it gets almost lodged into a specific part of the body. And if that happens for a long period of time, say 10, 20 years, you land up having some sort of an ailment in that specific organ or area of your body. And this is where, you know, a lot of disease or dis-ease manifests from. So we look at the physical body as a vehicle through which we can flush all of these emotions and the toxicity out, which is exactly what I'm doing as part of this, you know, cleanse, right? It's just another way of cleansing not only the physical body, but also having an impact on the energy body as well. And with that comes the uprise of emotions. You know, if you do a really strong yoga practice, we call it, as yoga teachers, we call it the yoga cry. Sometimes you can do a really strong practice and you lie in Shavasana and all you're doing is like you're You're crying your eyes out at the end of the class. And that's just because you've dislodged certain energies within the body and they're coming out and they're being expressed. So when we talk about energy medicine, we're really talking about all of life. We're talking about the way you live. We're talking about the thoughts that you have, which are electrical impulses that send information out into the field. And all of these things, every single thing that I've just spoken about, plus your spiritual life, they all contribute to energy.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at, when we talk about energy medicine, we're looking at ways that we can use all of those different quadrants to support us as a medicine.
Yeah, and as a whole. And I think I love this word and I use it a lot. Like, one can compartmentalize, and when you think about the quadrant, it's like it's it's like, don't compartmentalize, because it creates the whole. And so when we come at stuff from that very, like, and the mind is never ever the authority around any sort of decisions, and we it's in our body. But when we come at it from that brain, logic, mind perspective, I believe, I don't know how you feel about this, like, it's like, oh, there's the disconnect, there's the compartmentalizing, because it's not like, that isn't the whole. Like, that, when you come at it from that place, it's not the whole. It's not the whole approach.
And I've just bought Brene Brown's new book called Atlas of the Heart.
Oh yes, I want that. I love Brene.
If you've read it, if you've got it in your hands, pop us a note down in the comments and let me know, because she starts talking a little bit about, I'm only right at the beginning, but one of the concepts that she brings up in that book that I found so fascinating was that there are certain emotions that are very specifically thought of first. They're a thinking emotion, which means that you have and that triggers the emotion, like comparison, envy, jealousy. So when you're having these sorts of emotions, they're actually brought on by thoughts. So to think that we can separate our emotions from our thoughts it's impossible for us to do that. We have to combine them together, the two of them together, to actually create something from that, like a habit or a process or a ritual that's going to help let that out of our body, or allow that to flow freely.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my gosh. So for those, so lessons in truth, let's kind of talk about lessons in truth and what it is, because I think they've got some questions. There was some, with what practices are involved, like, what can we do with this learning? What else have I got here? We've talked about that, like what the energy body is and how it impacts the physical. We can talk a little bit more about that. And for those that are like, I've never done anything like this before, and I think, and it's like, and this is going back to your mind is never the authority in terms of making decisions. And I work with human design, right? And I drum this in, and I know that you use and work with human design as well. And it's like, if you have the way that I have gone towards stuff that, like, teachings and coaching and anything that's come my way, like, that I have that appetite for, like, it is 9 times out of 10, like, I just feel the kind of pull towards it. And so I want to talk to that, because then there are likely people, and I know there are in my community, that have been interested when I talk around energy medicine and what that is, and they're like, oh, I kind of feel pulled to it, but I've never done anything like that before, and I don't exactly know what to expect, and what do I need to do, and how do I need to show up, and also, like, how do I know whether this is, like, for me or not? And I always encourage anyone to tune in with their body, and if your body is saying, oh, tell me more, like, then explore that. And there's a reason, right? Like, there's a reason, like, there's a reason why our body directs us towards people, experiences, things. And so trusting that. So yeah, there's a few questions in there. How do you want to kind of break those down?
Firstly, like, not everybody knows what it feels like in their body to have that pull, that nudge to go into something. And what it could look like is that, you know, information about the program keeps on coming up, or you think about it all the time, or you're just ruminating about it constantly. That can also be something, even though that comes from the mind. When you're busy doing something and all of a sudden you have a thought about something else, that's also not a coincidence. That's a pearl that's dropped into your consciousness, right?
Very good point, because it's like that life I see is like it's a nugget, it's a download, it's something that drops in, versus over my point about the mind is like over thinking, over laboring it, rather than something being like, dong, or like this just dropped in.
The other thing I want to mention is that this program was specifically designed with the left and the right brain in mind. So the left brain and the right brain are very different beasts. So we're going to go into the theory of energy medicine per energy center. From a lot of people that have taken the program, sometimes it can be quite heavy in that there's a lot of information to take in, right? There's a lot to learn. And what I've basically done is just taken years and years and years and put them into like an hour workshop per energy center. But for others who are really into understanding it from a theoretical perspective, like, this is going to be your jam. You're going to learn about the 4 quadrants and how they relate specifically to each energy center, and how you can see that in your life. Like, you know, where can you feel it in your body? How can you hear it through the words that you speak? What music can you listen to help you understand reharmonization in those centers? So we're looking at all the 5 senses plus intuition and other senses as well that we have. And then go into the actual embodiment practices of it, which is really about, which speaks to the question you had before about rituals and practices. So we use acupoint, so aroma acupoint, which was taught to me by my teacher, Tiffany Carroll. And I share specific sequences that have been combined with yoga practices. Now, the yoga practices, you're not going to go into a class with me and think you need to be yoga proficient. It's super simple, super basic. And there's always going to be more advanced practices that you can enjoy if you want. But I've had a lot of people ask me, you know, do I need to be a yogi to do this? And I'm like, no. In fact, no. I would prefer, you know, coming with a blank slate anyway, because the things I'm going to teach you are quite different from what you'd learn in a normal yoga class or a yoga studio. So, and we do a lot of different types of yoga as well. There's hatha and yin and vinyasa and jivamukti, because I'm a certified teacher. So there's so many different types of yoga, but we must also remember that yoga in its very essence includes all the 8 different paths. And although this is not a yoga course, we do touch on all those things. We touch on meditation, we touch on contemplation, we touch on you know, aspects of reaching samadhi and bliss, and you know, all these things. So yes, because I'm a yogi at heart, a lot of this work has been learned through the many years of me learning yoga. And there's a lot of information about the yogic traditions, as well as, you know, the Reiki tradition as well in there. So the other practices that we learn are Reiki and hands-on healing and chakra balancing through using the energy in your hands, and how to distance heal, how to support oceans and time and space. And so we learn all of those really beautiful modalities. But, you know, what you said at the beginning was just so, like, it warmed my heart so much, because you think you're coming in because you're going to apply this information and these tools and practices for everyone else. And you do eventually get there, right? I mean, because you become the vessel for it. But you cannot be the vessel unless you're clear and unless you know how to contain and manage and hold that energy for others as well. So in learning to become the vessel for everyone around you, you actually clean your own house first, and you
Yes.
learn to clean up the cobwebs for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really
100%. And then, you know, if you are somebody who works with other, like, you know, I want to talk about the distant Reiki session side of things as well, because the physical is fabulous, but I find the distance is like, what? Like, it's just so powerful. And a couple of weeks ago, I had a client. We did a distant Reiki, integrative Reiki session, and for her, the surge of connection and creativity that came through after and has since, like, she's like, it was really like catalytic for her.
wow.
And you know, this was very different to Mr. gets Reiki about 5 times a week and just falls asleep at bedtime. But also other clients we have done that, and I was like, you know, it's interesting. So one of my other clients was a bit like, okay, like dubious, like skeptical, like, how the fuck are you going to be able to do this when I'm in England and you're in the Netherlands? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Like, what
and
am
it,
I?
yeah, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, just let's see. And she was like, oh my God, I could feel, like, in my throat, I could feel something. And I said,
Wow.
explain that, you know, like, and that is the power. And worth noting, like, I am not that, we are the conduit, right? The vessel. And so also that makes me even more what's the word, like, responsible for being a clear vessel myself, because it's that responsibility that I kind of like, I'm like, you know, this is, I have to be in good shape myself in order to be that
Yeah.
support for others.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so back to the point we talked about earlier, like, when I'm kind of like off or there's something, it's like being able to see it, to act and be efficient. I think that word that you use, like the efficiency piece. And it's not
Yeah.
to say that you don't have those beautiful, deeper, long, luscious, luxurious times with yourself to kind of go deep. But it's like, how amazing is it that you can kind of go, right, I'm back in the game, because you want to be, right? And I've been
Yeah.
on the other side of, like, the density of being too deep. Yes, and the power that you can just be like, bish bash bosh, right, okay. I feel I'm
Yeah.
realigned.
Yeah. Even before this call, right? Like I've mentioned to those who just joined us, I'm on a 2-day cleanse. And so I'm pretty hungry and my brain's pretty scrambled. But just before coming onto this call, I did a couple of practices that help unscramble the brain and open up the energy so that, you know, I'm not so down and out. And so I used to do this in corporate. I worked in corporate HR for many years, and you know, before meetings, after meetings, in between meetings, every time you just need a little bit of a pick me up while everyone's running down the road for a cup of coffee, you know, you're just doing a bit of tapping where no one can see you. Otherwise, you're known as
Going to the loo.
the local
Like,
medicine woman.
just going to sit in the
But
bathroom, not going for a wee, just, you know, just reconnecting myself, just rebalancing my energy body.
It's a thing. It's totally a thing.
Handy.
But it totally helps, right? So whatever helps, whatever's going to get you through those challenging moments. And we all have challenges throughout our days, whether you're working corporate, you're, you know, a mum at home with your 3 children, got your own business, regardless of what it is that you do in your life, like, energy as medicine is useful.
Yeah. And I think so it's probably worth kind of tapping into, like, what the structure is as well and what it looks like, because on that note, people have different lives. So how is it going to fit with my life?
Yeah.
You know, what does that look like?
Yeah. So this year, firstly, it's the only time this year that we're going to be running it. The other year, we've had 2 intakes a year. And this year, we've decided just to have it once. And you know, I've spoken to you a lot about this. You helped me with my marketing. And so I'm kind of teetering on the edge of it being the last time that I'm ever doing it. And that's not a sales thing. It's not a scarcity thing. It's just a truth, because that idea for a few months now, and I have had a few people say to me, are you going to be offering this again? And I'm like, well, I'd be lying to you if I said, yeah, next year it's going to happen. So
Yeah.
at the moment, I'm just feeling really called to have this as the last one, or the last version of it in its current form. So what it looks like is, wow. So there are audios and videos that are delivered to you. And whilst those are the information, the chunks of information that you get, the real meat and the theory of it. My intention with this round is really to deliver that meat and that theory in and amongst a lot of practical sessions as well. So what happens is you have your module that's dropped at the beginning of the week, and that happens for the first 2 of the 9 months, right? Because we're only going to be working with theory for the first 2 months of it. So you have your theory module that's dropped, but there are calls that are structured every week. So some months there's 2 calls, some months there's 4 calls. We work with the moon and the cycles of the moon as well. So some months there are full moon practices and new moon practices, just to really help you align your energies with the moon, or just to give you an experience of what that's like. And so I start with a caveat on, like, there's going to be the modules that are dropped at the beginning of the week. I'd rather you attend, if anything, you attend the live calls, and they're not compulsory, absolutely not. But the reason I say rather attend the calls is because you get so much more from being in a group. Even if you're learning the same content, but you're live in a, somehow the transmission is just stronger and clearer. And that's not to say the recorded modules aren't strong or clear. It's just there's some energy around being together in a circle. So you don't have to watch the recorded modules in order to attend. That's the important thing that I want to get out there. Is if you just attend every session and then go back and watch the modules when you have time, then that's also fine. It's a very relaxed program. It's very chilled, in that you're here for you firstly and foremostly, and you have the content forever.
But like you said as well, there are those who are structured and methodical, and there are those of us that aren't. Hello. I think like the way that you have set it up, and we should actually note, like, it's evolved even since the OGs, right? The essence and the core of it hasn't, but the way that you deliver it, and Correct. We in the first intake, like the live calls, like I don't think anyone missed. I think there may be I don't think anyone really missed any. Like, we were so committed to that. And there was that accountability piece as well, that it's like, okay, because we were going through, like, it was set up a little bit differently, as I say, to how it is now, but we were going through that content. So we were kind of like accountable, like, to each other as well, to turn up, to understand a little bit of what we were going to talk about, like, to have done, like, not homework, but even if it's, I'm that person, I'm literally like, the day before, define route, and like we go down the Gene Keys path. I'm like, great 20. I'm in the now, and I'm like, I'm not always in the, well, I haven't always been in the now, but I've stepped into that so much more. But I'd be like, okay, what is it? Right here, this is the thing. I need to have a look at this. Okay, right. Head in the game, let's go. Or I would always ask Jane, like, Jane, what are we doing today? Like, it was one of the ladies who would really know all of the things. But we would, I think reason I'm talking about this is I really want to emphasize the power in that group connection, and what you learn from others. It's kind of like that mastermind aspect of things, right? Where it's like, there may be something comes up and there's a discussion with one person, but if it's for one, it's for all, and you can take and learn from that.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that better. What is in one is in the whole. So,
Mm.
you know, I always emphasize this, like, I'm just teaching you what I know. Like, I don't know it all. I'm learning it with you. I'm learning as the program unfolds, which is why the program has changed so much over the years, because I wouldn't feel like it was a true reflection of me as someone who's in this work to just regurgitate work again and again and again in the same way.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly evolving the work, and there's always new exciting information that's coming through, not because I'm trying to keep it exciting, but just because my head's in the books all the time, and my body on the mat, and I'm experimenting and embodying these practices to such an extent that I have to share them once I know if they work, you know?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So like kind of logistically, what are we, the 6th of February now? So what's the kind of, for people who are like, okay, I'm feeling this, I'm going to do some looking at all of like how it works, maybe talk to you and ask questions and all of that. Like, how long do they have?
So we start the program on the 14th of March. So you've got a good, 5-6 weeks, which is a really nice time to think about it. You can check out the link, arianna.com.au/truth. Yeah. And there's a lot of information on there, heaps of FAQs. And if you'd like to have a discussion with me about it, which a lot of the people have done before they've joined. In fact, I spent yesterday on the phone with 3 participants. Then you can just request to have a chat with me, either through Instagram or via the contact page on my website, or through you, Nick, as well, like whatever's going to. Because here's the thing is, like, I want you to be certain that this is the right thing for you and the right time. I definitely don't want you just coming in thinking that it's going to fix anything, or it's going to be, you know, this cure for whatever it is you're going through. And sometimes that can be fleshed out in a conversation as well. Yeah. This program is not, it's not a fix. It's a lifestyle and a process and a way of
disclaimer, nothing ever is.
Right. But I have to say that, unfortunately, because a lot of people think that, you know, this program is going to deliver some sort of utopia to them, and it's not. It's hard work, and you have to focus in and devote yourself to 100%. The practice. And so sometimes that can be fleshed out in a conversation as well. You know? Yeah, and
actually trust, like, whoever you're talking to as well, right? Whoever's kind of like, oh, you know, like, trust yourself, and actually look at it from a point of view of like, if I want to do it, why am I doing it? Right. Or if I'm thinking that I can't do it, why am I thinking that? Like, you know, questions and explore that a little bit more so for yourself. Yeah. Because, you know, it's something that it's like, get fucking honest and real with like how.
And you have time. Like, you know, we've got 6 weeks now, right?
Yeah.
Like, sit with it, feel into it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You will know. I cut you off. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
No. No, it's just to that point, like, when you're having those conversations, or when one has conversations with anybody outside of themselves, sometimes we do it for complete and utter confirmation bias. Sometimes we do it because, to the point, it's like we want that person to fix us or to say what's wrong. But ultimately, and this is what Lessons in Truth is all about, like, everything is within you. So yes, have the conversations, yes, kind of chew the fat, talk to your partners and friends, and, you know, but come back to self, and come back to sitting with yourself and being fucking honest about whether that this is for you now or not. And if it's like, oh, not because of money or because of this, it's like, well, then what gives? What changed? You have a choice, right? This is, if you feel called, you can make it happen. Everything is like figure outable, and you can make it happen. And if 100%. You feel, you know, I say this to people all the time, and they're like talking about working with me or what have you. It's like, you can have that conversation with me too, but ultimately you need to make those choices and decisions.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that, say, you know, I always think cliche phrases are that way for a reason. Like, where there's a will,
Yeah.
there's a way. There is. And so
Yeah.
maybe you need to change some stuff in your life, or have a conversation with a partner and say, look, this is like, oh, I'm gonna do this thing. And to you, like, I've had that, like, Herman does not get half the stuff that I do in my work or do for myself. I would rather spend money on deepening my own self and experience and life and knowledge and, you know, the work. Don't like that phrase, but you know, whereas he doesn't see as much value in it, but
Yeah.
I don't see value in a bait boat that cost €800. Sorry, I just my
going on there.
sorry, my it just said low battery. I was like, oh shit. No, but
Yeah,
do you
we've
know,
been
like,
here.
it's like,
I do.
yeah, so we'll wrap it up, but like, it's that,
Yeah.
you know, if you the point is, we invest on what feels good for us,
Yeah.
you know, and what you perceive the value to be. And I think that's also something when it comes to like investment, like monetary, this
Yeah.
like work that you do for yourself, like, it just has, it's forever paying itself. Like, it's,
Yeah.
what's the word or the term, yielding, or no, it's
Yeah.
kind of like, has this,
Yeah.
yeah, it stays, it remains. And so I think that's really important to note as well, because yes, it's a monetary investment, yes, it's a time investment, yes, it's an energy investment, but
It's
the
for the rest of your life.
outcomes keep paying dividends.
That's, there you go.
There
It will
you go.
yield results for the rest of your life. Like, and also, just as an FYI, there are many different payment plans for this. So if money is a thing for you, then you know, check out one of the payment plans that go long past the program's end date. So we've done that specifically so people have ample time to pay it off. And if time is a thing for you as well, like, let's talk about that. Let's workshop ways in which you can create time for yourself, you know, and
because that is part of boundaries, right? That is part of, that's choice. That's actually like, where are you weak in those boundaries, and where, and how are you putting yourself first with your needs? So that's also part of the fucking work, peeps.
right. Exactly.
Right? Like, it's kind of, it starts there. If you're like, oh, I don't have time. And also, like, be really honest as well about your excuses. If it's like, no, I can't right now because of X, like, own that.
Yeah.
Own that, rather than saying, oh, because of it, because of money, or because of time. It's like, sometimes, you're not ready, and just say, I choose not to right now, rather than it's because of X, Y, or Z, which is also fine. And I think that's also a lesson in truth.
It is really, because you, in that moment, you make a decision and you park that questioning, that constant chewing and the shoulding and the musting and all of those things. And just park it. It's really powerful stuff. Yes.
Yeah. And so, to wrap up, if anyone has any questions, they can talk to me and ask me questions around my experience with it. And also, like, you've mentioned that, like, I wouldn't put my name against anything that I don't love, adore, and do. And so I support Ari with marketing and communicating it, because I'm like, this is fucking no-brainer. More people need to understand themselves on an energetic, emotional four quadrant basis. Like, it's like, let's get it out there. And I back this work. So I want you to all really know that. We talk about, like, transparent AF over here. So yes, but if you do have any questions for us, like, hit us up. We're going to be jumping off live now, but you know, I'll post this up onto my feed, and we'll get it up on a few other places, because we can download it.
Let me just see who's here. I don't know who is here still, but there are a few people that I recognize their names. How can you see this? Here we are. on
Yeah.
my Instagram doing weird stuff. Hey, Jade. Hello, Dylan. Ran. Hello. Lizzie. Daniela.
Oh, Ava,
Katie,
hi.
Natasha, Eva, Jane, Ellie,
Oh,
Lou,
Rosie. Yeah.
Liliana.
We've got a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks guys. Yeah, thanks for joining us live. And if you have any questions, just hit us up.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add, Ari? You good?
Good.
Perfect.
I'm good.
You go
Thanks for
to bed
having me.
now.
I will.
Good night.
Love you lots, babe.
Love you lots.
See
Thank you
ya.
so much.
Bye. You too. Bye.
Bye.